There we go. Okie dokie. We'll pop out the chat. Come on. Switch to live chat. There we go. All right. Good afternoon from Germany. How you doing? Checking in from South Ontario. Howdy. Cleveland, assembling World Eaters. Nice. Combat Patrol. Sweaty afternoon greetings from St. Albans, England. It's a little chilly here today, actually. It rained a good portion of yesterday evening. It has stopped now, but we needed the rain because all the grass was brown, and it was problematic. Working in the last member of my Night Lords kill team. Why did I save the most difficult post to last? Well, you know, that happens sometimes. Hello from Ireland. We're halfway through 2023, and I've painted 181 miniatures left there so far this year. Wow, not bad. Florida, Scotland, Oklahoma, Michigan, Quebec, Portugal, Delaware, Toronto, Michigan, Israel, Southern California, coastal North Carolina. Not you specifically, but the Cape Girardeau or something like that. But I called like the county office or something like that and asked how to pronounce it. So that's how I knew. And I'm hoping I'm getting it right. That lady could have been wrong. Let's see here. Germany, Scotland, Clearwater, Florida, Australia. Recovering from a sore throat right now. I've got something in my throat. Like, I was fine up until just before the show starts, and then all of a sudden I get something in my throat. I don't know why. Hopefully I can clear it. We'll see. Northern Ireland, evidently warm and sticky there. Oh, okay. Morning from a dreary Omaha. And birthday was yesterday. Well, happy birthday yesterday. Let's see here. Pennsylvania, rainy Southern California. Did someone... Let's see here. Is stream freezing over and over for everyone else? Oh, good. I'm glad that we've got problems already. That's great. Saskatchewan, how you doing? I haven't got a chance to read Majestic 13 yet, but I'm excited. Nice to hear. Nice to hear. Stream buffering quite a bit. Well, what could be the issue? I'm wondering if it's my computer, honestly. My computer up here has been a little bit squirrely lately, but hopefully we'll get figured out. Fellow Scotty here. How you doing? Catching live for the first time in a while, using this time to clean hobby space. It's not a bad use of your time, from what I've been told. Had some freezing, but it seems fine now. That's good to hear. Saskatchewan is fun to say. It is. It really is. All right. Let's see here. Greetings from Southeast England. Great to be here. Well, we're glad to have you. Yeah, no, it's been, it was a busy couple of months there getting the game launched. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Majestic 13 came out last week Friday, so not a couple days ago, but a couple of days ago. And it's been doing well. It's a platinum seller on Wargame Vault, so that's very cool. And then the day after it came out was the first day of TMX, the Tabletop Minions Expo, which is a little convention I run in town over that way. And so that was a lot of stuff to get done one weekend. In the future, Vince and I have talked about it. In the future, we're probably going to split them up a week. So the game will come out like the week before TMX. So that's probably not a bad idea. I think, you know, well, you live and you learn, you know what I mean? You did stream some Windows sounds. I don't have any, my headphones aren't on, so who knows? It's probably some sort of shenanigans. I think also partially, I wonder if Adobe wasn't trying to do some sort of weird update. That wouldn't surprise me, I suppose. Let's see here. Morning from Hudson, Illinois. Let's see here. Tennessee. Just got back from Wonderfest in Louisville Model KitCon. Well, that sounds like fun. Townsville. Attempting to grind at some cyber research cluster assessment. Those are words. I don't know what they mean, but it's pretty cool. Sounds neat. Nottingham, England. Happy Sunday. Columbus, Ohio. Congrats on the new game. Giving the rules a read through. Already ordered the miniatures from Wargames Atlantic to build my teams to get very excited. Nice. Yeah, the Wargames Atlantic, specifically the URA figures, are great for building your team. And they're just great models in general. But, so you can use them for all kinds of stuff. You only need 5, so. Morning from a slightly rainy Mitten. Should get an inch today. Still leaves us about 6 inches short. Yeah, no, like I said, we've been also real dry here, but we did get rain last night, so that's good. Hello from Italy. How you doing? My hard copy of Majestic 13 arrived today, or yesterday. Nice. Yeah, I'm amazed at how fast it's hitting people. Like, there was somebody, I think, on Thursday who posted a picture on Twitter who was like, hey, I got my copy. And I was like, wow. So, yeah, that's amazing. Good morning from smoking Quebec. Yeah, we weren't affected this much this week. Not like New York. Something happens in New York and we all got to hear about it. I get it. But about 2 weeks ago, we weren't to that degree, but like the light was orange, like kind of a little bit almost all the time. But it wasn't. My mom said she felt like she was having some, if she went outside, she would wear a mask because otherwise she would feel kind of weird. But yeah. Morning from wet Milwaukee. I hope it stays raining for a day or two, and happy birthday to me, Joy. Well, there you go. Absolutely, Jesse. Happy birthday, Jesse. Played my first war game ever yesterday with a friend who was also brand new. We had a great time. Thanks, Uncle Adam. You are why yesterday happened for us. Well, that's good to hear, Gary. I'm glad that you folks you got a chance to play and get together. That's very cool. Greetings from mid-Michigan. Thanks for sending the rain over. Yeah, had nothing to do with it, but you're welcome. Long time no see. Wasn't able to catch a live stream in a while. Hello from south of France. Nice. Waiting for my copy of Majestic 13's printed rules. Absolutely. Very cool. Let's see here. Good morning from also slightly rainy Georgia. How you doing, Kelly? What are your thoughts on Infinity? I mean, Infinity's very large. It goes forever. I suspect you're talking about the game. I've never enjoyed it. I've tried a demo. Now, I have not tried a demo of the new version. I know they're on version 4 or whatever. I've not tried a new version demo yet, but I've tried 2 and 3. And it's just never quite stuck with me. I don't think it's a bad game. It's just, I'm kind of weird about rules. And for some reason, those rules just don't work for me. I'm not quite sure what it is. The models are kind of cool. I'm still not a super huge fan of metal, but they are starting to move into plastics a little bit more from what I understand. But yeah, no, it's never been quite for me, but I know a decent amount of people like it. I always see that they have a good sized booth at like Adepticon, I think Gen Con too. Maybe not. I don't remember if they're a Gen Con. Yeah, they're usually a Gen Con, I think. But yeah, no, it's just for some reason never quite been for me, but I do know that people do dig it. Got my copy yesterday, super fast. Indeed, yeah. What's the vibe from the Leviathan launch? I don't know, honestly. I don't know. I know that the website's sold out, of course. That doesn't surprise me. They've said that this is a limited edition. If you were not able to get one from the website, look to your local stores. If you have any local game stores, go talk to your local game stores. They might have something that you'd be able to get. You know what I mean? Like I know my local game store ordered like 9 of them. I've seen local game stores that are getting 100 of them. There's a local game store down near Atlanta, Gigabytes Cafe, and I think they ordered 201 copies of it, something like that. So check your local stores if you've got them. If you don't, if you live someplace where there's not a local store within miles and miles and miles, well, I get that. But yeah. Have some of the URA models. Sonic Sledgehammer did a great painting guide. Can't wait to get them to the table for Majestic 13. I owed him a copy of my logo. We were talking on Twitter, and I was like, I should send. And I'm like, because he started painting the URA guys, and I'm like, I got to send you a copy of the logo. And then I did not realize how quickly he was turning that video around, and I didn't get it to him in time. So I feel bad. But yeah, he makes great videos, Sonic Sledgehammer. And so yeah, I felt bad that I wasn't able to get him the logo as fast as I didn't realize he was going to crank that out so quickly. But yeah, it was a very cool video. Let's see here. Orange skies really does set the mood for UFOs, though. Well, love that picture of the orange sky and the Diablo 4 poster that says "Welcome to Hell." Yeah, I've seen that. Definitely had the smoke in the air here in Michigan. Yep. Like I said, not so much this week. It was mostly East Coast this week, but 2 weeks ago we definitely had some. Malev, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Good morning from Appleton. The Tabletop Minions Expo was great, and the painting workshops were amazing. Well, good to hear, Chuck. Yeah. Yeah, this year was the first year that we had painting classes at the Tabletop Minions Expo. This year we had these painter guys. I don't know if you've necessarily heard of them. We had Sam Lenz, we had Vince Venturella, and we had John Ninjan Ninus. And they each taught 2 classes apiece. We had 16 people per class. All the tickets sold out. So yeah, it was very well received. And we're thinking about maybe... There was a chipmunk on the bird feeder. We're thinking about maybe expanding next year and adding some more painters. We have technically a room across the hall that we could move into as well, where the thing is, and then it potentially have a couple more classrooms over there. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, otherwise it went really well. It was a good show. It was a lot of fun. People had a good time. I'm really struggling picking up models for aliens. I'm incredibly torn between Tyranids and Necrons. Well, I'm going to be making a blog post this evening that will be about the aliens that we suggest you might want to take a look at. The trick is that for like the big main alien that you may fight, that base size is between 40 and 60 millimeters, but you really only need 1. Well, maybe you need 2, but as far as actual absolutely need, you need 1. You can have lots of them if you want to down the road. One of the big suggestions I'm going to make is if you go to your local game store or, wherever you get that kind of stuff, very frequently you'll see like a wall of all those like D&D miniatures made by WizKids that are kind of gray. They're pre-built and they're almost even pre-primed, and you can start painting directly on them. Just about any D&D type monster can be an alien if it looks weird enough. So that's what I used in the video. If you look at the video about, the launch video, the 2 monsters that are in that, those are both just like Dungeons and Dragons type monsters that I just painted to look like aliens. It's not hard, I just, so that'll be in the blog post, but yeah. Conversational Painter, how you doing? Enjoyed your channel for years. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Anyone else agree that GW handled the Leviathan launch rather well? I ordered it relatively easily yesterday. I guess I haven't heard much about it, but that's good to hear, I guess. I mean, I know that at one point I went to go look at something on the website. I don't know when it was, like maybe 11:30 my time. And there was like a special page that popped up that says, hey, get in line, blah, 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 whatever, and all this kind of stuff. And it'll start in 27 minutes or blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, good. At least they're doing something like that. So, yeah, but I know it's sold out and it was going to be. It makes sense. But like I said, go check with your local shop. Just having this on in the background while I paint up my ships for Ironclads, a game by Triple Ace Games I picked up at the UK Games Expo. Well, that's cool. I hear that Sam and John are coming down to Columbus. I think so. I'm not sure, though. Good morning from Gilbert, Arizona. Tinley Park, Illinois. Let's see here. How convenient we get a new box of NIDS. I mean, like Sam and I were talking yesterday, and he was talking about how, like, because he painted up all of the Tyranids for the Leviathan box. So go check Sam's channel on YouTube if you get the chance. He's got a nice kind of vlog kind of style thing of him working on them. We actually got to play yesterday. We played a bit of 40K, the new edition. My guys aren't finished yet. My guys, well, they're not. I got a picture here I put in. So these are this is the Combat Patrol. So, and we weren't really messing around with Combat Patrol. We were just messing around trying to learn the game loop and using the models that we had and just sort of like, kind of practicing almost. Now, these front 5 models were nearly painted completely by the time that this started. but this is right after I got done, obviously, in the airbrush room is when I took this picture. But yeah, it's basically 5 of the Infernus guys, it's 5 of the Terminators, it's the Terminator Captain, and it's the Terminator Librarian. So there were a couple little things here and there that we were looking at that were like, you know, things that like you gotta go, I'm gonna have to go back and read about that later on. But it's really good to like stumble through a game and kind of try to get the idea and figure it out, and then go back to the book, and all of a sudden everything kind of makes more sense. At least I find that to be the case. So, I've heard that Ninjan will slap the brush right out of your hand during his classes. I mean, he might. I think I took a couple of pictures in one of his classes, but that was about it. Generally more of a fantasy guy than a sci-fi game, but I'm enjoying the Space Station Zero very much, working on some better figs and also working on that giant box of Space Games Workshop Space Hulk walls. There is a lot of walls. That's true. But good to hear, Eric. After having seen your video on the Combat Patrol box's value, I decided to get myself a Sisters of Battle box, and luckily I had it at a considerable discount. Nice. That's pretty cool. Oops, everything's scrolled. If you're into kit bashing, the dollar store has fast stuff for big aliens. That makes sense. Would Monster Apocalypse figures be good for Majestic 13 bosses? Yeah, I think so. I mean, you'd want to probably, I mean, if you can put them on again, if they're on like I didn't think Monster Apocalypse is on square bases, right? You would want to probably have them on round bases, but it's not a requirement. But generally, anything where the base size is between 40 and 60 is pretty good for the main monsters in that game. What are your thoughts on a new edition of Age of Sigmar next year? Do you think free download War Scrolls will come back? I hope. I mean, they should. I mean, technically, you can still download all the War Scrolls for free. Well, you can't download them per se. Can you? I don't know. They're available on the app, right? Like, I don't know you can download them as PDFs, but I think everything's available on the app for free these days, isn't it? Or did they get rid of that? I don't really know a lot about Age of Sigmar these days. I haven't played it in quite some time. I hope they make things a little bit simpler, frankly. Like, the reason I haven't really played 3rd edition or whatever Age of Sigmar is it's just, there's too much. They've added too much, in my opinion. To be fair, I preferred 1st edition, but, you know, what are you going to do? Hello from a gloomy June, Los Angeles. How you doing? Do you get to play as the aliens in Majestic 13? Nope. You play as the team that is there to try to stop the aliens from wreaking too much havoc and such like that. So you show up, excuse me, you show up with a team of 5, and who are part of the Majestic 13 organization. One of the organizations that is a part of the there's 13 different factions. That's what makes up Majestic 13. So you've picked a faction. You have your 5 team members. You go in there. You try to fight this alien. The alien is run by the game, so it's you have rules on how the monster moves and attacks and does the things it's supposed to do. I hate to use the word AI in this situation because AI is a bit overused these days, maybe. But anyway, yeah. So that's how you do it, and then when you're done, like hopefully you are able to take the monster out. But if not, and you maybe lose some team members, it's okay because they have clones back at the base, so they can get clones, and then you go on to the next battle. Now, your clones may not be perfect copies. Sometimes there's problems, but that's the way it works. Repurpose some of those demons from Rain and Hell for your aliens? Certainly could, for sure. I like to paint minis. Did you ever cross paths with Norn Queen Alexis? I think I know who you're talking about. And yeah, she and I and a bunch of other people were at the wargame retreat called Valhalla in the Fall, which takes place in Utah in the fall, strangely enough. Gosh, that was probably 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. I saw the queue page and then just decided I didn't want to interrupt someone's shot at getting the game when I just wanted to poke around for no reason, so I closed the window. Sure, yeah. Sam's video is a descent into madness. It's great. Indeed. It's a great video. I am flat out done with GW's 3-year cycles of new editions. I'll probably still buy occasional GW models, but if I still want any of their games, they'll be older non-concurrent editions, or non-current editions. Sure, I have said in the past that I think that they should be on a 5-year cycle at the very least. But they seem stuck on this 3-year cycle. You know what I mean? My local game store ordered 40 copies. I'm number 14 on the list. Nice. Hey, Grim Dark Brit. Final Faction stuff from the Dollar Tree would be perfect. Sure. A few bags of those super cheap plastic animals and a bottle of Gorilla Glue. Inexpensive The Thing aliens. Oh, you could definitely glue a bunch of weird stuff together. That'd be fun. Having a hard time getting an Invictor tactical warsuit for my Space Wolves Combat Patrol. Anyone else having a hard time getting Combat Patrol figures to complete? I know, I know my local stores got one. At least I think they do. Easy way to have them on round bases without removing the square bases to magnetize the bottom of the square base. Yep, sure, that makes sense. I suppose you could use small alien models as your team in Majestic 13 and have very large human as your adversary. Turn the narrative on its head. Oh my goodness, yes, you could do whatever you want, honestly. It's your book, you bought it. Where does the second player come in for Majestic 13? Would you play 10 versus 2 aliens? Yes, basically you'd have 2 teams. Well, you can do it a couple of different ways, honestly. Generally, the way you do it in Majestic 13, if you want to play co-op, is you have 2 teams of 5, so, 10 models total, but they're separate, and then also 2 aliens. But you also could just use one team and then, of 5 and 1 alien and have one person run 3 people and the other person run 2 people. Like, they don't have to stay in coherency or anything like that. You could do that too. Vince did a demo with 5 people at TMX and he just had each of them run one model, and then the alien did the alien stuff. So yeah, you could do lots of stuff like that. Welcome from the Panhandle of West Virginia. Have never really played 40K yet. I did prime up several forces in hopes that 10th edition will be my cup of tea. We had a good time yesterday. So far, so good. We had a good time. There are little changes here and there that are interesting. One change that we noticed is that, how plasma guns would blow up if you rolled a 1 to hit? They've changed that now. If you use a supercharged or overcharged or a plasma gun, for example, or any other weapon that has hazardous as a keyword, then what happens is that you do the attack as normal. Everything happens, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter whether you hit or miss or whatever. And then after the attack's all done, then let's say you had a unit of 5 Hellblasters, right? So they all fire and they do stuff and some stuff blows up and it's great. And then at the end you go, okay, I fired 5 of these big plasma weapons or whatever in this particular army or in this particular unit. And then you just roll 5, D6s and for every one, someone just dies. Now you can use a command point to reroll, but that's, yeah. So it's interesting. It's instead of on the hit and then, oh, maybe nothing happened. You can shoot, be successful, hit a guy, blow it up, all that stuff, blah, 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 and then also still die if you decide to use a weapon that's hazardous. But, especially with plasma and things like that, you can choose to just do a standard shot versus an overcharged shot, and then you don't have that hazardous keyword. But it's little things like that here and there that they're tweaking, which are kind of interesting. How's the launch of Majestic 13 gone compared to Reign in Hell Space Station Zero? Seems to be good buzz about it. People are digging it. I mean, a lot of people who have been picking it up and things like that, and in the Discord as well, have been really enjoying it. So that's been very cool. Yeah, we've been we're doing. Let's see, we did Warhammer Weekly this last week on Wednesday. I was on Vince's Wednesday show. It was me and Tom, and then Vince, and Vince was in Germany at the time. So that was a good talk if you're interested in finding out more about the game and that kind of stuff, and it's a good talk. I know we're going to probably be doing some other stuff. We're sending out review copies, things like that, so it's cool. And we're also working on the next technically 2 projects, because we are planning on having a little zine come out in late fall, early winter, which will be something we're going to do once a year. And we'll put out this little black and white zine that you can print or not, but there won't be a print version to buy. It'll just be a PDF only. And it'll be very inexpensive. And it's going to have a little micro game in it. the whole document might be, I don't know, 24, 28 pages long, somewhere in there. But there'll be a little micro game in there. There'll be some little add-on things that you can add on to some of our previous games, like Rain and Hell or Space Station Zero or whatever. And like I said, we're going to put out one of those every winter. And then we're also already working on next spring's game. So we've got that moving too. So, but yeah, keep them busy. I don't mind GW being on a 3-year cycle because it allows them to course correct, fix the awful 9th edition. I guess that the answer there is to probably try not to have such an awful edition sometimes, and then you don't need to. Or, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Almost allowed myself to buy Leviathan, then I realized I'm not actually super fussed and can just wait to pick up Combat Patrol boxes later. They won't be going anywhere. Sure, that's true. Hey, Uncle Adam. Cannot wait to get our new house so I can start hobbying again. Nice. Now pre-order is over. Is it still possible to buy Leviathan if you didn't pre-order? If you go to a local store, you can probably still pre-order or, put your name in if they know they have X amount coming. And if they haven't sold them all, you could probably do something like that. But I looked on the website last night and it says no longer available for order on Leviathan because they only have so many. It was a limited thing. But the models that are in that Leviathan box, they're going to come out in other boxes in the future. They will release starter boxes. This was what they generally frequently refer to as a launch box, and they are generally kind of limited edition. Indominus was the launch box last time. For Age of Sigmar Dominion, or is that Dominion? Yeah, was the launch box. But there are also, like, at least with the last edition of 40K, there was like Recruit, Elite, and Command boxes that you could buy. Recruit was the cheapest one, came with the fewest models, and then it kind of went up and went up. But those were all models that came out of the Indominus box. So it's not like, oh, I didn't get these models and I'm screwed, I can't get them anymore. The stuff will be available. I can, it's just this particular box configuration, they can only make a finite number of, because we live on a finite planet, and they're out there. Now, the book, the specific version of the book, which weighs a ton and says Leviathan on it, this only comes in the Leviathan box. But they'll sell another book that has all the rules and stuff in it, and it'll just have probably a different cover. It's all the same information. Plus, the actual core rules that you need to play the game are a 60-page document that is stuck in the middle of the book. Well, yeah, 2/3 of the way through the book is that document, and this document's also available for free right now. You can download it. It's a PDF, and it's the exact same document. So, and then all of the data sheets and all that stuff will get released as free PDFs as well. So, how did you come to this game idea? Did you see a UFO, or do you know someone who did see a UFO? No, I've never seen a UFO. I've always been interested in the concept, and I've paid attention to conspiracy theory stuff, and I enjoy listening to that stuff. But I've never seen any kind of a UFO. The Majestic 13 name came from a conspiracy theory about a group called Majestic 12. So like I said in the video, the belief is that after Roswell in 47, President Truman basically appointed these 12 men to this group, which was called Majestic 12, and they were supposed to do research and figure out like what's going on with UFOs and all this kind of shenanigans and whatever. And you can find more information about that online. Like that's on Wikipedia. Like they will tell you who the 12 men were supposed to be and all this kind of stuff. But again, it's not proven, and nobody knew about it at the time. The Majestic 12 thing didn't really start to come out into like the public eye until the 80s, when a documentary producer who works on UFO-y type stuff to some degree, he got a roll of film in the mail, an undeveloped roll of film, and he sent it off to get developed, and it came back, and it was all these photographs of these Majestic 12 papers, which you can also find on the FBI's website. The FBI looked at them and said they were all bogus and whatever. So this Majestic 12 is something that I didn't make up. It's been out there for years and years and years as a concept. And if you've watched the Umbrella Academy, they showed up in the second season of the Umbrella Academy during one episode. I mean, there was, they talked about them in X-Files and stuff like that. And I just had this idea, and I'm like, and I don't know what it was, but all of a sudden, just like the idea of Majestic 13, just the name just popped into my head, and I was like, that'd be a good idea for a game. So literally, I came up with the name of the game before I came up with the idea for the game. I came up with the idea, and then I went to Vince, and I'm like, hey, and then we built it, and here we are. So, there you go. Now, that all being said, it's interesting that we released the game, and then like within less than a week, all of a sudden, that whistleblower, I don't know if you've heard about that, but there's this whistleblower who is a military intelligence guy who was like literally still working in the military last year and then left and is now a whistleblower because he's saying that the government has intact and partially intact vehicles made of non-human origin, and they're keeping it from Congress. And so he's a whistleblower and saying, Congress, you need to know about this and blah, blah, blah. And it's in a lot of different news places. And there's all kinds of people who are currently in the military who know him or who are recently in the military who are like, oh, he's beyond reproach. Like, this guy's not a kook or whatever. Like, this guy knows what he's talking about. And so it's all this stuff just came out in the last week and a half that is crazy. And it came out right around the time the Majestic 13 is. So either we're a psyop, which would be weird since I didn't know that. Maybe that's how they get you. Or it's just coincidental. I'm not sure. But nonetheless, yeah, if you want to just type in UFO whistleblower into your Google and you'll find all kinds of news articles about it, like by big, like not like, the Weekly World News, but like big news outlets. And it's kind of crazy. So anyway, we'll see how all that goes. Let's see. I've been developing my own set of rules. Need to start writing them down. Absolutely. Let's see here. When I see this Leviathan box, my brain says Dreadfleet. Well, Dreadfleet had a bunch of boats in it. Aliens doing alien stuff. That's true. How did you time this release so perfectly with the whistleblowing UAP news? Yeah, no, it was not planned. Or was it? Wish I could push a button to make it zoom in on my face and make that dun dun dun, but I don't have that. Maybe eventually. Let's see here. Enjoying the stream, frantically finishing up my Indominus Space Marines before the Leviathan box arrives. That's not a bad idea, I think. No hazardous weapons for me. Yeah, well, I know what you mean. Just bought my copy of Majestic 13 this morning. The cards were a great idea. That was a Vince idea. Yeah, I've never been super crazy into cards. Like, I mean, I get like in a card game, it makes sense, but I've never been one of those people. Like, very frequently, if I see a war game that comes with a whole bunch of cards, I'm like, I don't know is that necessary? Do we need that? I don't know. For example, like Marvel game, like there's a lot of cards in that. Not a ton, but a decent amount. And then Fallout Wasteland Warfare, there's a lot of cards and tokens and little bits and pieces and stuff. There's some benefit to cards for sure, but I've just never been a person who's like, meh. So when we designed the game, we wanted to make it so that the cards are a nice option. They're a nice to have, but you don't need them. They're not required in any way. The one downside to the cards we've been noticing from people, and there's nothing we can do about this, unfortunately, is that the company that sells the cards, which is going to be, War Games or War Game Vault, right? So we sell our games through War Game Vault, and we can sell the game and we can also sell the cards. But you can't buy them in the same order because they are printed in two different places. So that's kind of a bummer. You can't be like, oh, I want to have, one book and one cards, please. Like, it doesn't work that way. You have to buy them separately, and then they get shipped separately because they're coming from separate places and stuff like that. And we've talked with the folks at Wargame Vault, and they're like, we can't find anybody who will print the books and print the cards in the same building. And so that's just the way it is. So that's the one downside. But otherwise, the cards are really nice quality. They're very, they're print on demand again, but they're very nice. Like, they've got they feel like cards. They don't feel like they got a nice glossiness to them, but they're not too glossy. They've got a nice thickness to them, but they're not too thick. They're bigger. They're tarot-sized cards, so they're not like the size of like a magic card or a poker card. They're a little bit bigger, but they work really well for just like, You know, because there's the 26 monsters, the cards for each of the monsters in there. On the front are the stats, and on the back are the abilities and stuff like that. And then there's also cards for each of the 5 different bases that you could have. So you can have that information in front of you as well. And then there's the expansions for the bases. And then one of the expansions for the bases has up to 6 different breakthroughs that it can also have. So you have all of that stuff on the card. So instead of having to go through the book or, you know, and go, now what is it that I'm doing? Now, we also make a free PDF where you can download what we call the base sheet that then says, well, this is the type of base I have, and here's all the expansions and stuff. And then you could just do it on a piece of paper as well, you know, but just FYI, you've got options. But people like cards, and so people have been buying the cards, and that's been cool too. I hope the 10th edition Combat Patrol will snugly fit that spot between Kill Team and 2,000-point games. I think it'll, well, yeah, I think it will. I mean, honestly, it probably will fit the spot between Kill Team and 1,000-point games. But yeah, because the really Combat Patrol seems to be, and we don't know the points yet, but if I had to guess, it's closer to 500 points, roughly. Maybe less, maybe 400. Kind of depends. But yeah, if you've seen the book, the Leviathan book, there's a lot of Combat Patrol in there. And I don't mean necessarily like a lot of rules. There is some Combat Patrol like stuff in here, right? Directly after the core rules document, there's a thing about stratagems, terrain features, example battlefields, and there. So Combat Patrol. So the next section after that is just called Combat Patrol in the book, and it talks about how to play Combat Patrol, and then shows you the 6 different missions for Combat Patrol. I'm assuming that this will be also a document that will be released like the core rules document as a PDF. Sometime in the next couple of weeks, they're going to be releasing all the Combat Patrol data sheets and probably also the document that makes this up. Well, for sure, it would be a real bad idea on their part if they released all the data sheets, but the only way to be able to get the missions for Combat Patrol was to be able to buy this book. That would be real dumb. So I'm pretty sure they're not doing that. But it has all the different stuff in here. But all throughout this book, like, there's sections in here about, like, here's the Tau battle or Combat Patrol box. Here's the World Eaters Combat Patrol box. Here's the Space Marine. Like, like, they're definitely, there's even a little chart in there that's like, when you want to get into 40K, you start at Combat Patrol, and then you decide to either go narrative or match play / competitive. So it's not something I feel like they're just doing for funsies. It seems like they're definitely integrating it into their strategy pretty heavily, which was good. When they first announced it, I was like excited, but I was like, well, maybe it's something they let go by the wayside, or it's just a little thing that they throw on there. But it seems like they're leaning into it. So I think that's good. I think that's a smart move. I'm scared there will be a new Kill Team edition too. Lost all my elites in the new edition. Yeah, there'll be one next summer, because the last one came out in 2021. The next summer will be 2024. So there'll be a new edition of Kill Team next summer. I would be surprised if they didn't, but it'll be 3 years. So yeah, there'll be a new Kill Team next year. Any possibility of doing a symmetrical competitive as in 1v1 game? I think that Majestic 13 would be a good fit with one player as a team and the other as the alien. No, but no, there's not. We don't really have particularly the aliens. I think if a person is running them, they get way too good way too quickly. So that's maybe the issue. Now, that being said, you can play team versus team in that game. You could be playing a military exercise, and then you could have your team of 5 versus your friend's team of 5 or whatever, and you can play against each other that way. But having a person run the alien, I think, makes the aliens way too smart and makes them way too deadly, because they're not pushovers. Let's just say that. So yeah. They're still available for pre-order over here. Well, that's good. Yeah, like I said, I looked on the US site last night and it said no longer available for sale. So I just got my copy of Majestic 13 in the mail. Any recommendations for modern military models? If you go to snarlingbadger.com and you go to the news section, I posted a post last week that has a whole thing there about different places to get models for your teams that will work at, suggestions and stuff like that. So yeah, if you go to snarlingbadger.com/news, probably, I think you'll find it. Greetings from apocalyptically warm Manchester. That sounds very warm. Apologies for the lateness. Was hunting down much needed shipment of primer that found its way to my neighbors. Well, that'll happen. Dominion's still available to find. Yeah, it is. My local shop, I think he said recently he's got still 15 copies of it. Only thing I did for the Leviathan release was get some infiltrator gas mask helmets before people realized how good they would look on the flamethrower guys. Oh yeah, they would look kind of nice. Yeah, I didn't do mine that way, but I should have. Those flamethrower guys are nice. Sam was going to charge my unit of 5 of the Infernus Primaris guys with, I forget what kind of Tyranids. Smaller ones. I don't know. It was a group of 10 or 12 of them, I think. And he was going to charge them. So I spent the one command point to do basically Overwatch. And then the thing is Overwatch basically kind of works the same as it used to, except you don't have to just be getting charged. I think even if they move, you can do Overwatch, even if they're not coming at you. I could be reading that wrong, but he was definitely going to charge me, so I decided to use Overwatch. Well, the thing is that Overwatch is, and then you hit on 6s. But if you have a flamethrower, you don't roll to hit, they just hit. That's the way it works, which is why you very frequently don't necessarily try to charge guys with flamethrowers. So my 5 guys cooked all 10 or 12 of his. They did some work. Those flamethrowers is nice. Yeah. So that was the one good thing that happened. Otherwise, I did get beat. But honestly, the Terminators, they did some work. They took some stuff out, and there was a lot of times that he would do a bunch of damage and stuff like that, and then I would roll saves, and I'd be like, okay, well, I take one wound, and each of those guys has got 3 wounds, and the Terminators are real nice, and like I said, those flamethrower guys, they do work as well, but they also croak real quick once they did actually get hit. So yeah. Don't fall for FOMO. There will be a Leviathan product to be found for sure. Stuff can be bought in the future. Sure, absolutely. Recruit starter boxes for 40k was the same price as buying a unit of Necron Warriors, but also had Astartes in it, so it was never not worth it if you wanted Necron Warriors. Sure. Any hints for the topic or theme of the next Snarling Badger game? We don't usually let that stuff out. Yeah, not until just before launch. But yeah, it's we've got, like I said, we've got the Zine, the next Zine game figured out what we're doing. Vince has already started doing some writing on that. The next spring game, Vince has done more writing on that. We got that one figured out. The next Zine for 2024, we don't have any ideas yet, but then the next big spring game for 2025, we already pretty much know what that's going to be, and probably the one for 2026 as well. So yeah, we've had people reach out and go, hey, I got some ideas. Are you interested? And we're like, no, we got ideas. Ideas are easy. Ideas are not hard. Execution is hard. Zine sounds super cool. Looking forward to it. Absolutely. Yeah. We just wanted to do something kind of like that, because it's going to be, I don't know, maybe $6, maybe $8. Depends on how long it is, I guess. But we want to make it in a format where you can just buy the PDF and just read it normally and it's fine. But if you wanted to print it, either yourself or at your local Kinko's or whatever, it's going to be designed so that it will fit on an 8.5 by 11, and you would fold it in half. Like if in Adobe, the free Acrobat reader that you can download, there's a thing in there where you can say print this as a booklet, and then it will print page, let's say it's a 16-page booklet. It would print page 1 here, it would print page 16 here, it would print page 2 here, and page 15 here, and then it would go through and print them all, double-side them and all that. You'd fold them and then just do a staple or whatever, and then boom, you've got yourself a cool little zine that you can carry around. But you don't have to. You just keep it on your laptop or your iPad as well. That's fine too. But we're going to format it in that fashion, which is why we're calling it a zine. If you've seen, Space Weirdos that I've talked about a bunch here in the channel, Sword Weirdos, they're also formatted in that same size so that you can print it and all that kind of stuff. And it's cool. And again, even if you don't print it at home, you can take it to like a FedEx Kinko's or whatever they call it, or Office Max or whatever kind of place you got, and they'll probably be able to handle it and do the stapling and all that stuff too. But yeah, it'll just be simple black and white, and it's gonna be fun. Let's see here. Look up Vannevar Bush. Yes, evidently Vannevar Bush was allegedly one of the Majestic 12, who I think is the grandfather of one of the President Bushes. I forget exactly, but related at the very least. Just realized I could use hazmat gnomes for the naturalized. They're suited up, so just need to swap the flasks and shop vacs for guns. Sure, makes sense. Are you the 13th member of Majestic? You have time to answer if you are. I am not. No. So the reason we changed it to 13 instead of 12 was because, like in the lore for our game, Majestic 12 didn't start in 47. It actually started in 41 after the Cape Girardeau incident, which was also something we didn't make up. There was a UFO crash evidently in Missouri in 1941, and so Majestic 12 was formed then in our story, and then failed because, like, when they would vote on stuff, there's an even number, so they would be split on the vote frequently, and that didn't work out. So they restarted the organization as 13, and then rather than just having 13, old white dudes or whatever, they decided to make it organizations. So it's 13 separate organizations. So you have my book is downstairs. Rats. So you have like let's see, naturalized, which are grays mixed kind of, or like working with humans. The grays are good aliens that are getting attacked by the bad aliens and stuff, so they've come to Earth. There's dispersed, which is kind of like anonymous, if you've ever heard of anonymous online. There's a couple different governmental agencies. ODIR is one, which is the Office of the Department of Extraterrestrial something or other and Research. I forget exactly. There's the 1%, which are rich people. There's Roughnecks, which are kind of like almost like Teamsters. Like it's a lot of like people who work in shipping and all kinds of stuff like that. Whatever. There's there's the Women's Defense Force. I'm trying to remember all the logos. There's the Hippocratic Mercy, which is a group of doctors and medical professionals who go out and hunt aliens and such. And logos. Not synthetic. Silicon Syndicate, which is basically a group of high tech like manufacturers and stuff like that who have their own thing. There's the Industrial Arms, which are military industrial, manufacturers who've got their own team, or teams really. Section 6, which is like the CIA mixed together with MI6, mixed together with like the FBI and all kinds of other like acronym type agencies. So there's a lot of different options for which faction you want to go with, and they all have different benefits basically. So it kind of depends on how you want to go that way. Where am I? I'm very far behind, I think. Let's see here. Are you dissing the Weekly World News? You've obviously never seen Men in Black. It's the only trusted news source. I get you. Watching while making scenery from Sengoku Monster Hunter, which will double as downtown Tokyo for Majestic 13. Nice. Bits of Majestic 13 sound like Bureau 13. I don't think I'm familiar with that one. And the clones from Paranoia, old RPGs. I'm familiar with them. I know of Paranoia, but I've never played. Gives me a chance to use Mars Attacks and Star Saga figs. Yeah, they would work out well. Love the Relic Blade cards. Keeps me out of the books and adds complexity. Yeah, I mean, I'm not against the concept, I guess, and it depends. But yeah, it's. I'm glad that people are digging them though. The ones that we're making, at least, and I like that people like other cards too. Let's see here. Trying and failing to avoid the heat while tidying up my hobby room. Labeling various tubs full of scattered terrain. It's not exciting, but future me will be grateful. Yeah, I mean, doing that kind of work is always, helpful. I'm going to try to do some getting rid of things in the basement today, a little bit after lunch, and then I got to do some other work, and then I'm also going to try to continue to work on the Terminators. I've basically finished up the Infernus guys, the 5 Infernus guys from my combat patrol. Those guys are done, and now I'm working on the Terminators. And then after that, I just have to do the Terminator Captain, who's got a lot going on, and the Terminator Librarian, who also has a lot going on. So, how lore heavy is the new book for 40K? Very lore heavy. First of all, it's just physically heavy. It's a very thick book, just about 300 pages, as it turns out, I think, or maybe wait. Oh, no, 330-ish pages. But I would say the first 2/3 of the book are just, so like, and I showed this on the Friday video. So here's the core rules, right? This is the start of the core rules. And all of the rest of this, which is just shy of 200 pages of this 230-some page book, this is all just, I don't want to say lore per se. It's a lot of pictures of different models, but there's a lot of lore. But there's this entire section, I was talking about the combat patrol, like there's an entire section that just shows the different combat patrols. Here's the Orc combat patrol. And it goes through and shows what the models are that are in there and talks a little bit about them, like a paragraph about each and all that kind of stuff. And then that's the Orcs one. And then here's the Necron one. So this is the new Necron one. I was kind of right. Like I said, I had a suspicion they were going to redo it. And the new Necron one is basically just all models from Indominus. So the Flyer is no longer part of that. You've got, what do you got here? You've got an Overlord, you've got Warriors, you've got Scorpec Destroyers, you've got some Scarabs, and then you've got that big Canoptic Doomstalker, the big 4-legged tall guy. That's pretty much your combat patrol for Necrons. Let's see here. Jim Crimmins, how you doing? Just got my Majestic 13 book yesterday, working on painting up enough aliens since I have plenty of agent types already. Nice. Jim says, my Majestic 13 is also landed. I'm amazed that they're getting them out so fast. That's really great. I'm glad. Do you have any idea? Do you have any ideas for dates for TMX 2024? Would love to attend, but need to take the time off in advance. I might not know until a bit later this year, unfortunately. I want to talk with them and see if I can get the date nailed down a little bit sooner. But the downside is because it happens at the university and it happens just after school gets out. Now, there's still students there. There's summer classes and stuff like that. But it's this kind of weird time where school gets out in kind of mid to late May. And then summer classes start heavy a little bit after TMX. And what happens is that there's a time in there where they go through and they do some sort of weird maintenance to, like, all the buildings are heated by steam on campus, I guess. I don't know. It sounds old, but I think it's supposed to be fancy. Anyway, my point is that they do this thing where they have to, like, kind of, like, clear the system somehow. And then it makes it so that, like, no one can use water for, like, a couple of days. And they do it on a weekend. And there have been times when they've been concerned that TMX was going to fall in the same, the people at the convention center were concerned that TMX was going to fall in the same weekend as Steam weekend or whatever. I don't know what exactly. It's some sort of maintenance issue. So that's why we kind of have to plan not super crazy far in advance, unfortunately, but I will let people know as soon as I know. Let's see here. Have you kept up with the real life UAP stuff going on at the moment? A little bit, yeah. I've been watching some things. I've been listening to some podcasts. It's very interesting. It's very interesting, especially this last week. Had a lot of people go, how did you know that was going to happen? And I'm like, I don't know. U.S. team in a meeting engagement with USSR team fighting for some alien MacGuffin. I mean, sure. Decided not to buy Leviathan other than the book. The minis will be available in short order, so I'll just wait. Sure. Just to pop in and say how much fun TMX was this year. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, TMX was a great time. It worked out real well. We had more people than last year. Last year we had like 45 people. 2019 we had, pre-pandemic we had like 90. So, again, it's not a big convention, but we didn't do it in 2020. We didn't do it in 2021. 2022 was pretty low. Like I said, 45 people. This year was like 78. And that does not include all of the people who came to the painting classes. If a person from the painting class decided they also wanted to come in and play demos and do stuff at TMX, then they would come in and buy a ticket, and then we counted them. But if you just came to go to the painting classes, went to a painting class or two, and then left, you didn't have to pay for a ticket to get into TMX as well. You just paid for the painting classes, and so then we didn't really have those people technically marked down as TMX people. So I wasn't trying to inflate the numbers or anything like that. But still, as far as actual people who bought tickets and stuff like that, and then of course, like we had a vendor, and then I counted him, and I counted myself and my wife. So yeah, it was like 78 people. So that was cool. And then we'll probably grow it even a little bit more again next year. For your next game, is there a chance you'll make a game that does co-op for a larger group, say 6 or 7 players? I have a large gaming group, and that many adds a lot of minis to Space Station Zero. That's hard to do in the type of games that we like to write. I don't know that that's going to work in the next game that we're working on, the one for spring of next year. It very possibly might work for the game in 2025, though. Yeah, it might work for that game, but for the game coming up this next year in 2024, it's going to be probably solo and co-op again. I'm not sure if we're planning on solo and co-op for the 2025 game. I'm not 100% sure on that. I think there might be some add-on, or there might be something that I'm not sure. But like the focus, I think, on the 2025 game is going to be a little bit more versus oriented. So potentially you just play with more people. But yeah, we'll find out about that. Was at my FLGS yesterday, and I asked about the Lion availability, and he just laughed. They've got to be making more of those down the road. Like, it would be really dumb of them to make like the number that they made and then just be like, well, that's all of them ever. I mean, that just the mold cost alone, and of course recouping the design cost, not just the mold, but the mold and the design cost, has got to be a lot. And so I'm assuming they'll come out again, but I get the feeling their production queue is sort of, I think they're finding that they don't, even though I think they have 2 factories in Nottingham, I don't think it's enough. So yeah, I hope that they get their stuff together on that. Nikki Rowan, how you doing? I think Adam and Vince's next game is going to be a mecha game. No, it's not. Not the next game, nope. Tyranid barbecue, white vinegar or red sauce? I think I would prefer red sauce. But yeah, that was it was definitely, there was a bad smell from from hitting all those Tyranids with the flamethrowers. Hey VJ Morph, how you doing? Robot squirrels in the Old West? No. If you want to know the theme for the next Snarling Badger game, that your regulars always have a good guesses and are pretty spot on. Let's see there. Well, if you're looking at combat patrol rules, how interested are you in playing this mode? Well, the combat patrol rules are the same as the regular 40K rules. Like, the missions are different, but the rules are the same. Like, Combat Patrol plays with the normal 60-page document that you can download for free now, which is both for 10th edition 40K and also for Combat Patrol. So there's not separate rules for Combat Patrol. The data sheets are separate. There are 40K data sheets and there are Combat Patrol data sheets, and they are separate. But yeah, no, I'm totally jazzed. That's what I'm really looking forward to. So that's the thing. Snarling Badger does a zine. This is news to me. Need to pick up a copy. Well, it's not out yet. It'll come out this, like I said, it'll come out this fall/winter. We're not exactly sure when. Late fall, early winter. That's the plan. So I don't know, maybe November-y. Late November-y? I'm not sure. But yeah, that's the plan. We're going to come out with that. And it'll, like I said, it'll just be a download-only type thing. There won't be any print version. Sadly, the company that we work with, Wargame Vault, doesn't do what's known as saddle stitch. And saddle stitch is when you fold a book like this and put staples in it. Like comic books have a couple of staples, and like any book that doesn't come to a flat edge. So like a soft cover book, here's one. So this is a little soft cover book from that somebody sent me called Space Arc. It's a space combat game, and it is what's called perfect bound. So it comes to a flat edge there, right? That's glued. But if it came to just like, if it was just folded and then it was stapled, then that's what's called saddle stitch. I don't know. Not sure why they call it that, but yeah, the company that we work with doesn't do saddle stitch. They used to years ago, but they stopped. So If they did Saddle Stitch, then we would probably just have them, available for print as well. But this way, you just buy it, you download it. If you want to print it, you can. It's not hard. Let's see here. Execution is hard, especially if you're the one being executed. Well, you don't have a lot of work to do if you're being executed, I suppose. You just kind of just sort of sit there or whatever. But it's bad. Agricultural League. I forgot about them. Good point. Bubba's Doom says, I miss zines. I do too. Yeah, I agree. Let's see. Had you seen if anyone's been creating fan-made campaigns, missions for any of the games that's so far? I don't know if anyone has. I mean, we've had people in the Discord tell us that they're doing like this and that and whatever and certain things for amongst their gaming group, but I don't think, I mean, technically we don't really have, we thought about it for a while when we first were launching Reign in Hell about whether or not we were going to do Creative Commons and like what was involved with that. And we kind of talked to some folks and we decided not to go down that road. So, so somebody couldn't like at this point really technically someone wouldn't be able to make like an expansion to our game and then sell it. Like if they wanted to make an expansion into our game or something and play it with their friends, that's totally fine. But if they were trying to sell it or distribute it in some fashion, I think that there's some sort of issue there. So that's, I get that. But yeah, we kind of talked about that. Zine rulebook about being mutated animal martial arts heroes. He be grandfathers to both bushes? Interesting. Just one great. Oh, sure. Yeah, it makes sense. Weird to hear Cape Girardeau come up in conversation. We live across the river from there. It's about a half hour away from us. We go to the shop sometimes. Heard of the UFO crash story before. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with it. I just actually Vince stumbled across it when he was doing some research. And so that's why we kind of focused on that instead of just the Roswell thing, which is what most people focus on in those situations. Bat Boy for president. I mean, probably. Let's see here. Going to pick up the Majestic 13 PDF ASAP. Nice. Do you varnish your figs for play? Generally, yes. The ones I was playing with yesterday when I was playing against Sam, and you can see I posted some pictures from our game yesterday on Twitter. Those were not yet varnished because they weren't done yet. When I was playing yesterday, the Infernus Primaris guys, the guys with the flamethrowers, they were like 5/6 done. Like the bases weren't done, the rims weren't painted. There was a couple little pieces. I don't think I'd done the eyes yet. No, I had done the eyes. I had done the eyes, but I hadn't there was a couple little things I still needed to tweak, and so they weren't done yet. So now they're done, but I haven't varnished them yet. I'm going to probably varnish them. Well, this week, but maybe even today, depending on how things go. But I do generally varnish, yes. Any opportunities for mechs in Majestic 13? Could have sworn you mentioned something. I am known to have flights of fancy. I mean, robots could be, or aliens could be robots. I mean, there's no, like there could be, like technically it could be a robot with a tiny little alien inside. There's nothing to say that it can't, those are options. But the good guys don't get, or the Majestic 13 folks don't have mechs. So I'm going to end up with a team for each of the 13 and a model for all 26 aliens. So a total of 91 models. This will be a fun long-term project. I mean, you don't have to. You really don't. Here's the thing, especially about the teams. We designed it so that the teams, so basically you got 5 models and all of the teams, like kind of in the fluff, such as it is, the teams always show up and they're always in military gear with no markings on it, no logos, no icons, no nationalities or anything like that. And generally their military gear is usually dark gray or black, which kind of ties into the whole kind of Men in Black thing, right? So, so yeah, you literally could make one team and then just use that team. And then if you decided you wanted to change and start over with a new faction, as far as your game or your campaign is concerned, you could just use that same team. You don't need to. And again, the monsters, like of the monsters, then there are 26 of them. There are 3 different kind of types. You have monstrosities, you have ravagers, and you have stalkers or skulkers. I think it's stalkers. So, you know, you don't need to make a different one for every kind. If you want to and you have a good time with it, then have a good time with it. Knock yourself out. Don't actually knock yourself out, but you know what I'm saying. But we've had people being like, that's a lot of different monsters I got to make. And we're like, no, you don't have to. You could literally just, I mean, honestly, you could use the same monster over and over again. And you go, well, look, now it's a such and such, and that's totally fine. But, you know, you do you. Make as many monsters as you want to, but you don't have to, for sure. Just want to make that completely clear. Leviathan describes both the box set and the book itself. It's very heavy. You're not wrong. You could use bolt-action figures, sort of like a prequel to the main conceit. I mean, we generally make the idea that this game is happening in the now, but if Majestic 13 started in 41, 42, somewhere in there, you could certainly use World War II guys. Just be like, oh, this happened in, like, you know, late 49, and this is, you know, and yeah, that's not a problem. Totally up to you. Going to an airbrush class at Wonderfest really helped me get a feel for how my airbrush works. Uncle Adam is right on the 90 to 10 doing watching split. Yeah, it does. Doing really does help. It really does help learn you things. Is the Thousand Suns Combat Patrol still the same? It's 2 Zangor heavy. It's some dang Zangors. Yeah, it's still the same. Yep. Hoping for some new exciting products, and there was Star Wars Shatterpoint. Yeah. Local shops got that too. I don't know if it's been moving yet on his end, but trying to paint up all my Inquisition type units before we can start playing. The new Arbites are just fun. Well, that's cool. Going to see if my gaming group will just agree to stick with the indexes to avoid the inevitable bloat and power creep. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, I think, you know. I wonder if they run a short inventory when they know it's a new book. Oh, we have to order for 10, so let's print 15. I don't know. I recently painted some Stargrave Troopers black, so in Majestic 13 I thought they will work really well, but now my Goblin brain is thinking all these other models will work even better. The Stargrave models are one of the things that we listed in the blog post last week, where we were like, here's some places to go look. Like, you know, we talked about the URA models from Wargames Atlantic. We talked about other ones. I forget the, yeah, hang on. And go here, and go here, and then we'll make a new one of these, and we'll go to snarlingbadger.com. Okay, so here's the website, and here's me and Vince. Here's the blog post, how to find models for your teams. So, Wargames Atlantic, URA, they're pretty good. Anvil Industry, oh yeah, Anvil Industry out of the UK. They make tons of different resin stuff that's definitely got like a private military contractor kind of feel to it, and it's a lot of mix and match, and it's great, very modular. Stargrave models from North Star Military Figures, those are also great for that situation. Even Cadian Shock Troops, the new Cadian Shock Troops from GW would work fine, because they're not so chunky, they're not so like everyone's wrist is this big around, like they're a lot more slender almost, and they just would work. Like, you're gonna want to shave off maybe some of the chest eagles and stuff, not chest eagles, but they got the, on their hats, they got the imperial insignia and stuff like that. You might want to shave some of that stuff off, but they'd work great for that. And also Blacksite Studios, there's a lot of different wet resin miniatures, all kinds of different stuff that would work out quite well there. And then if you're getting into 3D printed stuff, just go to My Manufactory, type in soldiers, and you're going to find a lot of stuff to be able to choose from. So and here's these guys are the URA guys from Wargames Atlantic, and they're great. It's like an inexpensive box. It's like $35. You get, I don't know, 20 or 24, maybe 24 guys, and like 3,000 heads. It's just so many. So like, if you ever buy a box from Wargames Atlantic, just make sure to trim off all the heads you don't use, and then you will have heads for, you know, kit bashing and swapping and stuff like that for the rest of your life. They just, yeah, they give you so many different heads to choose from. It's awesome. So yeah, they've got great stuff. Anything cool going on over here at Warhammer Community today? Oh, you can pre-order Leviathan. No kidding. The index for the Space Marines came out. That's fun. I don't see anything else new yet. If you're looking for where to get the download stuff so far, what you do is you come here to Warhammer Community, and then you go to FAQs and downloads, and then just go to the downloads section. And then you pick your language. And then normally this page continues to load. English, or not English, US English. Thank you. Okay, all right, well, I guess we'll just use regular English. Okay, and then there's this bar down here. And then you go to Warhammer, and then here's the stuff. So the core rules document is here, and then there's the, what do you call them? The data sheets for the Tyranids that are in Leviathan, the Space Marines that are in Leviathan, and then here's all of the Tyranid data sheets for all of the Tyranids that are out there and available, and then here's the Space Marine data sheets for all the Space Marines that are out there and available, which is a lot. Then after that, I'm assuming this week they're going to keep just releasing, like, here's all the, I don't know, chaos dudes, or here's all the such and such. I mean, unless they're going to split them up into separate chapters, which would sort of suck, but they'll figure out what they're going to do and they're going to release them. But the way to do it is to come here to the download section here at Warhammer Community. That's the easiest way I've found to find them so far. So anyway, and then you can see, like, come on, PDFs. I don't want to. So it has, like, these cards are vertical, right? And they have the detachment rules and the special stratagems and blah, 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 and some enhancements. And then they start going into the different, the rest of the cards are more horizontal. So here you got your Primaris Captain. Here's all the, he's a leader. He has Oath of Moment. Oath of Moment basically means at the beginning of each turn, you pick a unit from your enemies, and then all of your guys get, everybody who has Oath of Moment on your side gets to reroll hits on that unit, which is sort of nice. But it has all the different abilities and all that kind of stuff, the different war gear abilities, your invulnerable save. Over here, you've got your normal stats, and then all the different range weapons, so you can build this guy however. And then on the back here, it says, okay, well, this model's bolt pistol, mastercrafted bolt rifle, and close combat weapon can be replaced with one of the following: this and this, or that and that, blah, blah. So what we don't know yet is points. And so it'll be interesting to see whether they're going to say, well, when you do this, this is how much it costs, or if it's going to be like Age of Sigmar, where basically, like, you pay this unit cost, and then you can swap these things, and it's the same unit cost. That'll be very interesting. It'll help with math, too. And then it also tells you, as the leader, this model can be attached to the following units, because in 10th edition, HQ units can be attached to a unit of, like, whatever, which is kind of like it used to be back in the old days, but it hasn't been for a while. They've all been separate. So you can attach this Primaris Captain to Assault Intercessors, Blade Guard Veteran Squad, Hellblaster Veteran Squad, Infernus Squad, Intercessor Squad, or Stern Guard Veteran Squad. But there are specific things. It says here, this model cannot be attached to the Blade Guard Veteran Squad unless it is equipped with a Relic Shield, and cannot be attached to the Hellblaster Squad unless it is equipped with a Plasma Pistol, which kind of makes sense. Like, you've got a Plasma Pistol because all these guys who are following you all have giant plasma guns. So, it's kind of interesting, like, the different ways, but it's all laid out this way, and so each of these two cards, if you were to buy a pack of cards, because I'm sure they're going to sell these packs of cards, they would just be double-sided. You'd have, this part here on the front, and then this information on the back. I don't know if Combat Patrol cards are going to be double-sided or not. That's a good question. I don't know. But yeah, it's just, like, this document is thousands of pages long. Well, not really, but it's a lot of pages. Where are we at here? Can we tell? Evidently, no, we can't tell. Oh, 252 pages long. My goodness. So yeah, that's a lot of cards for the Space Marines, which makes sense. I get it. Anyway, all right. Let me get back to my, where are you? Chat window, this window, chat window, that that window. Boom. There we go. Do you consider designing a game that's based on a deck of cards instead of dice? We haven't so far. The downside to doing that is, well, we would probably have to make it so it was designed in a deck of cards like a poker deck, so you already have that. Otherwise, if you have to buy if we make it so you have to buy the cards from us, that becomes kind of a limiting factor. We always like to make things accessible as possible. So if we did it, we would have to do it based off of kind of like Malifaux does, where it would be based off of like a poker deck, which you can get anywhere. You probably have one in your house. TMX was delightful. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm way behind, by the way. I was yammering on it. Any combat system based on dice can be converted to cards pretty easily. Sure. Thinking about making one of my operatives from Majestic 13 a Union Army soldier that was abducted, put in stasis, and then recently recovered and revived. Well, that's kind of cool. Heard they opened the second factory in Nottingham and went 100% capacity instantly. Oh, they've been selling a lot, for sure, yeah. Peachy has said that the 2 factories are maxed out on production and they're not opening another. Shortages will persist, sadly. I think they should open one in the States. I think there should be one here in the U.S. I think it would save them a bunch of time and money and a bunch of other things, but I've heard that cooked tuna does taste like chicken. I don't know. As I understand it, production was diverted to the Leviathan box, which made everything else suffer. I had a replacement sprue ordered on March 1st, but only replaced it. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I wish GW would make a North American manufacturing facility, maybe reduce costs for the continent a bit. Yep, and we're on the same page there, Chad. Emily, how you doing? I am way behind. It's called saddle stitch, as if the fold of a register is the saddle and they stitch along the saddle. Yeah, that makes sense. Even though it's staples, but yeah, in this situation. That's not a very good print shop. The average office copier can be issued with an external sorter finisher, which can saddle stitch and even trifold. I mean, they're print on demand, printing books and all that kind of stuff. And I think they just had a low enough. I think they just got to the point where like I said, they used to have the saddle stitch option and it just wasn't getting used as much. So they just changed things. But I mean, the print company that does it, at least here in the States, and I think it's both, because there's 2 facilities. There's one in the States for the books, not for the cards, unfortunately. The cards are only printed in the States, but the books are printed in the States and also in the UK. And the company is Ingram, which is this huge, massive book company. So yeah. I get my books locally printed and spiral bound. That makes sense. Sure. I print most of my rule books at work because I have to test the machines that do that. Well, there you go. I personally love if wargames started to follow the RPG industry and adopted new orc license from Paizo. I don't know how that would work, because rules, otherwise it would be all the games would just have different fluff but have the same rule set. And we don't even do that with our own games. I know there's companies out there that are like, we make a bunch of different games, but they use the same base rule set. And we make a different base rule set for every game because we believe that kind of like the rule set ties into the story and ties into the fluff or lore, whatever. And so, like, you know, the way that initiative worked in Reign in Hell was because of the way that it is a kind of hand-to-hand combat battle that you're kind of seeing. Whereas, you know, in Majestic 13, initiative is handled by your acuity score. So the people with the highest acuity score, or the monsters with the highest acuity score, get to go first, because that is part of the thing. It's not random roll. It's like the people who can move superhumanly fast get to go first because they can move superhumanly fast. So yeah, I wouldn't want to work with a system personally, and it makes total sense for RPGs. Like, RPGs are a totally different thing because they're so story oriented. But with our stuff, because the story's not as nearly as important as the rules, it wouldn't work for us. But yeah. Let's see here. Zine rulebook about being mutated armor. Are you and Vince now looking over your shoulder since you are clearly getting close to the global alien cover-up conspiracy? Nah, we're fine. Next game is going to take on preteen dirty jean black belt hamsters. I think that's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reference there, and I'm here for it. How you doing, Lee? Signatures need to be collated, then they get stitched, stapled, glued. Book sander cleans up the edges, then put in a case, pressed, sent out, more or less. Yep. I got a friend who works in has worked on a bindery for 30 years, I think, at this point. And he looks at our books and he's always kind of impressed. He's like, they do pretty good work, you know? Vince refuses to make robot squirrels despite the squirrel boom. There's a squirrel boom? I had no idea. The youth really vibe with robot squirrels? No kidding. I thought they were kind of mid. I'm just trying to use the language of the children these days. No ID markings equals no decals. Also true. My intuition says Uncle Adam and Vince's next game will be a mecha kind of some game. I think I read that. No. Let's see here. One of the best things about Yell's games is that you can cater the narrative a little to the models that you not only have, but you also want to play with. We're always trying to make things as accessible as possible. And because of that, we do have a tendency to try to tweak things a little bit, for the most part, to things you can already find. We've had people, I had just somebody recently who was like in one of my YouTube comments, it wasn't even the Majestic 13 video, I think it was the Leviathan video that I did on Friday, who was like, seemed real unhappy about the fact that we don't make models for our own games. And we're like, it takes so much work. It takes so much work to be able to do something like that. Does this mean it'll never happen? No, but believe me when I say it takes an incredible amount of work to even just find a sculptor to make STLs. I'm not even talking about working with the sculptor to find STLs, just to find a sculptor who does good work that we like that is also available, because so many sculptors these days who do good work that we like are working for themselves. They got a Patreon or a Tribes or whatever, and they are doing just fine, thank you. Yeah, it's a ton of work. You know, would we work with somebody down the road? Maybe, but right now we're just definitely like making games to use models you may already have, which is the perfect world, because then you don't got to buy any more models, or models that you think are cool or easy to find or whatever, or stuff that you can get at your local store. It's always seemed to be, it just works out well for us that way. I'm also tempted to just skip the codexes this time. Sure, I can understand that. Does it show what's in the Combat Patrol? It doesn't. They haven't released any of the Combat Patrol stuff, but you can... Where can you find that? I know there's some place you can find that information. Like, oh, there's a just do a search for Combat Patrol on the Warhammer community website. They have... I remember there's an article that shows, here's a picture of the Space Marine 12 models that makes the Combat Patrol, and here's a picture of from Leviathan, and here's a picture of the Tyranid models from Leviathan that make up a Combat Patrol. I know it's on because I used both of those images in my, or did I just use one of them? I either used both of those images or just the Tyranid one, I think, I don't remember, on the Friday video. So I know that they're on, I got the images off of the Warhammer community website, so yeah. Sounds like a good candidate for some Cold War era figures too. Sure. Kurosan Miniatures has a lot of stuff to work with, modern sci-fi and even pulp stuff, huge selection. Yeah, like we're kind of aiming towards like modern, like, I mean, the guys from the URA guys from War Games Atlantic do have slightly futuristic-y looking guns, but otherwise they look like kind of just regular soldiers. But like any kind of like regular modern type soldiers, like in the book we mentioned that these guys will carry around guns that look like normal guns. It'll look like an M4 or an M16 or I don't know, MP5 or whatever. But the insides have been replaced with all kinds of what we call retech, which is reversed engineer technology, which Majestic 13 has gotten from aliens over the last several decades, and they've been using it. So you've got a gun that if a civilian sees you, you look like just a normal military guy, except in black fatigues, and you're carrying what looks like a normal assault rifle, but it shoots neutron beams or who knows, whatever, because of the retech. So. Almost forgot. I actually got to pre-order Leviathan yesterday. Got real drunk at a birthday party last night. Came home at 2 a.m. Oh, that's not good. Well, I mean, it's, you know, the throwing up part's not good. There was a leaked schedule for the data cards, which put them over the next 2 weeks, with the day before release having the Combat Patrol and Crusade downloads. Huh. I'm thinking an Avatar of Cain or Be'lakor would make for a huge alien for Majestic. They may be too big, though. Yeah, like I said, generally we're trying to aim for, and again, you can do whatever you want, but when people are asking, we usually tell them that the base size should be for the monsters is 40 to 60 millimeter. So if those guys are on a 60 millimeter base, that's cool, but 60 millimeter base is not that big. But yeah, it could definitely work that. Looking at the download site now, and the options for the individual games is blank/missing. I think it's, and I don't know why this is, but I was just looking at, if you look at US English, then it seems to be missing. But if you go to just English, like UK English, then they're there. But I noticed that too. Sam had that same problem, I think, yesterday when he was trying to look up the stats for the Tyranids from the Leviathan box. He was trying to look them up on his phone, and he's like, it doesn't work. And I think he was looking, I think it's some sort of issue there. So just use the regular UK English instead of US English, and then it was working a second ago. At least it was for me. Coast to coast shows I always regretted listening to were the shows on serial killers. Some things you are better off not knowing about, in my opinion. Sure, I can understand that. Just looked on Spiky Bits at the estimated value of the Leviathan box, $900. Seems a little high, but I could be wrong. Can't wait to see what Templar get tomorrow. Please don't screw up the Emperor's Champion. Western skirmish game that uses a deck of cards would be cool. I swear there's one out there, isn't there? Knuckle Duster? Or is that the name of a company? Maybe Knuckle Duster is the name of a company. I swear there's it completely makes sense that you would have like a Western skirmish game that uses a deck of cards. That seems like a good idea. And like I said, I know Malifaux uses a deck of cards, but I thought there was another game out there that did it too. Let's see here. Tyranid tastes like ham. Well, that wouldn't be so bad, really. I kind of like ham. If they're doing a 3 production facility, it would be in the Eastern Hemisphere, bring down prices for Australia. Sure. Looking forward to the Combat Patrol data sheets, but Leviathan not playing Space Marines. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to them releasing the Combat Patrol data sheets too, because I think that's going to be very cool information. I'm looking forward to it a lot. I know a lot of people also are like, there's no way possible they can make these balanced and stuff like that. And like I said, I was talking about it recently, maybe it was 3 weeks ago, last time I did one of these shows, and I was like, they'll probably just make it so you don't use some of the models from the box. So let's say, Custodes, you just don't use a unit, and then that way is how they even them out. But then I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, that would be a real bummer if you bought a box and they're like, yeah, don't use these. That would be, so maybe what they'll do is they'll be like, use these 2 units and then choose between either this unit or that unit, and then the benefit to you as the player is that you can then swap back and forth, whereas the rest of the combat patrols are just use these units and they don't change. So maybe they'll do it that way. Because yeah, the Custodes that's a lot of those. I mean, it's not even like physical number of models. It's just that they're all very, very powerful. So there's got to be something that they do there, I'm assuming, to limit it. Or they just make them, just for combat patrols, surprisingly weak. You know what I mean? Which would also not make a ton of sense. But do you have any plans for alternate settings for Majestic 13, say modern/near future expeditions to alien planets, etc.? Not particularly, no. We I mean, if you wanted to do a different setting, you could just change your terrain and your models. You know, like I said, make your models look more like World War II models or something like that. But honestly, the game itself isn't really impacted by the era very much, right? Yeah, I don't think so. Not that I thought. And then expeditions to alien planets, no, we don't have any plans on that either. If GW did open a factory in the US, I'm pessimistic that they'd lower the costs. Yeah, well, yeah. but maybe they'd be able to get stuff out faster, or in higher numbers. I don't know. I'll have to check out Majestic 13 since I absolutely adore the X-Files. There might be some fun stuff in there. Yeah, I think so. I bought a spiral binding machine. Wow, that's pretty fancy. Just finished my second game. Love it so much. Setting is my creativity on fire. Nice. Wargame rules are different than RPG rules, for sure. For sure. They would certainly charge more for GW products if they manufacture them in US or Oceania in order to recoup the cost of setting up operation. Could be. You know somebody who works at a bindery, but do you know somebody who works at a trapper keepery? No, I wish I did, though. I could use a free trapper keeper. That'd be pretty cool. One day I will make a model that I can use my squirrels for. A game that I can make my squirrels for. That makes sense. Noob Painter, how you doing? Noob Painter has 3D modeled a robot squirrel, as a matter of fact, by the way. I've seen it. Designing minis is almost more effort than it's worth. I think for a small group like us, yes. And the thing is, too, like, I know a lot of companies are like, well, we need to sell you the rules and then also sell you the models, because then it's like, I don't want to say a snake eating its own tail, but it's like it's a chicken and an egg situation where we're going to do this, and then that will also drive more sales in that. But you also see a lot of companies now starting to, that are not GW, although even GW is starting to do this now, where they're like, look, if you want to buy the book from us, you can. Like, if you just like books, cool. But we also want to have the rules available for you to download for free so that you can check it out and then hopefully buy our models. Now, Vince and I are not selling the book we're not giving away the book for free because it's the only thing we're selling. We're, again, telling you, use models you like, use models you already have if you have them, or, whatever. But yeah, there are so many models out there that currently, for what we're doing and the types of games that we're playing, there's plenty of models out there that are available. Again, down the road, we may make some sort of game that is specific. I don't think there would ever be a situation in which we would make a game where you had to use our models. That just seems too draconian, frankly. So very likely, if we were down the road, you're going to make some sort of like work with somebody to do something or whatever, it would be like, this is available, but you can also still do this and this and this, or whatever. But that's most likely the case. Models are easy to make. Cello cases make great mannequins. I mean, sure. Noob made some spectacular. Did I post them on Twitter? I don't know if I did or not. But yeah, Noob made some great Nick Raimondo models, which he brought to TMX, and Vince used them in the demo that he was running of Majestic 13. So yeah, you should be able to see them there, I think, on either the Snarling Badger Twitter or the Tabletop Minions Twitter. I forget which one. Probably the Tabletop Minions Twitter. Model Agnostic harkens back to using whatever action figures, dolls, whatever you had on to play out, whatever your imagination came up with it that day. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I dig Model Agnostic. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still like playing. Like, I'm getting back into 40K because of Combat Patrol, and they are fun models to paint. I've been enjoying painting I've done the 5 Primaris, and I'm starting to work now on the 5 Terminators from that box that I'm going to be using for Combat Patrol. Because the Combat Patrol from that box, there's like 20. I must have said something wrong in the last video, because there was a bunch of people that said there's more than 12 Space Marines in the Leviathan box. And I swear I said, of the Space Marine models, 12 of them are Combat Patrol, and either I said it wrong or people just didn't hear it. But there were several people that were like angry at me because I said there were only 12 models in the box for Space Marines, and that's not the case. There's like 25 models in the box for Space Marines, but 12 of them make up the Combat Patrol. It's 5 of those Infernus Primaris guys, or Primaris Infernus, whatever. So it's 5 of the Infernus, 5 Terminators, Terminator Captain, Terminator Librarian. That's the 12 models for Combat Patrol in Leviathan. But there are obviously more models than that in there. And those Terminators are pretty cool. They're kind of hard as nails as far as the actual gameplay. When I was playing against Sam yesterday, they died last. Let's see. With My Mini Factory, there's no need to design your own models for a game these days. Exactly. I mean, there's so many different things out there, even beyond My Mini Factory. But My Mini Factory is an awesome place to start, in my opinion. Let's see here. Blue 9, how you doing? Also, good morning. I've been lurking for the last 40 minutes while I putter around the house. Not a problem. Do a Friends of Snarling Badger like Gaslands. Oh, I know what you mean. Okay, yeah. Friends of Gaslands. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Maybe. My physical copy just arrived. Nice, Dances. Do you have a plan for when your zine will launch? Like I said, probably late fall, early winter this year. I bet one of the tools like Hero Forge could build stuff for a game if figures designed on their platform were to be the official minis for the game. There are a couple platforms now. I don't know what the legality of that would be. Like, I don't know that we could, without talking to them and partnering with them in some fashion, like we could, I guess, technically, design some of the models using their tool and then say, these are the models. We'd have to work with them on it. But even then, like, that's a great tool, but it's it's still kind of, you're like in a specific area. You're I don't want to say railroaded, but they have lots and lots. Hero Forge has tons of extra little accessories and all that kind of stuff. And you can even pose the models to some degree. But that being said, it's still only a certain, it's not quite necessarily, but it's a possibility. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but using Stargrave Troopers. Yep, the Troopers are cool. Looking at getting into Frostgrave, and something I'm struggling with is to figure out whether older supplements are compatible with second edition. Does anyone have any idea about this? I don't know. That's a good question. You would kind of hope, right? Like that they would make second edition that wouldn't change so much that it would make all the old books obsolete, other than the original, rule book. But I don't know. That's a good question. Enemy Spotted Studios has modern military minis with their in-country line also. Nice. Okay. Spectre minis is a large selection of moderns. There you go. Yep. Worried that the new 40k points will be sold in the Field General's book only, and really worried that Deathwatch will get crappy support, loss of mix and match aspect of kill teams, for example. I believe they've said that they're going to release the rules for free. Like, it would be, like, at this point, if they open that door and they go, here's the core rules for free, here's all of the data sheets for free, and then when everything comes out at the end of this month or whatever, they're like, oh, but if you want the points to play the game, you got to buy this book. That would not go over well. That would be very bad. They might do it. Don't get me wrong. I don't know. But it would be really bad. So, yeah, I suspect they're going to release that information for free as well. Keeping the points behind a paywall seems like a really terrible idea. But, hopefully they don't. Hopefully they've figured that stuff out. Google Translate works pretty good between US English and UK English. Yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit of work, but you can figure it out. Dracula's America uses cards, I think. Yeah, you might be right. Not really a fan of 10th, or for someone who grew up with Warhammer since the tail end of 5th edition, I really wish that the system would go back to rules like 5th and 6th. I started on 5th. I'm liking the fact that they've streamlined things enough. Like, playing as a person who played 5th, like a number of, let's say, discussions, and let's not say arguments, that started for trying to figure out whether my las cannon is hitting the front of your rhino or the side of your rhino. There was a lot of those, and let's not have that anymore. So just my las cannon hit your rhino. There you go, done. Like, I don't know if that amount of granularity adds a ton to the game. I know there are people who love the super minutia of, like, well, every little, but play Battletech is my suggestion. There's a lot of minutia going in. There's a lot of little circles for you to fill out and Scantron type things, and that's fun. But yeah, for me, I want the game to be a little bit more simplified, and I just don't need to be like, oh, you can't fire that sponson on that vehicle because it's on the wrong side and it doesn't have line of sight, and going for every last little thing. It just, everything became an argument because of how detailed, and if you make the rules just a little bit more abstract, then those things don't become arguments anymore. And then it's just gameplay, which is, again, a preference. But again, like I say all the time, that if you and your friends, like, I know people who play second edition just keep playing second edition and they dig it, you know? So you could still play fifth with your friends as long as you wanted to. But if you were like, well, I want to play in tournaments in fifth, well, that's going to be hard for sure. With Leviathan around the corner, there are plenty of ready-made monsters for Majestic 13, by the way, Tyranids. Yeah, a bunch of the Tyranids would work out pretty well, honestly. You may be thinking of Deadlands, the Great Rail Wars. Oh, that could be, yeah. Well, Deadlands I'm familiar with. Like, Deadlands is a bigger company. I was like, there's been this company that's been at Adepticon the last couple of years. It's got like an Old West thing. And Deadlands has got like magic and all kinds of spooky shenanigans going on in it. Whereas this was like just a normal, like almost historical Wild West game. And I can't remember the name of it though. Other minis I've been eyeing for Majestic 13 are Cobblestone Castings, Future Wars Troopers. Oh, that's pretty cool. Fortunately, my local play group only plays the latest GW. Yeah, yeah. Most do. That's the way it works too. Sega uses cards too, like a normal poker deck. I didn't realize that. I guess I haven't looked through the book as closely as I should have. Gunfighter's Ball uses cards. That sounds familiar. Is that's a miniatures game? That might be what I'm thinking of. Tyranid attendees. Knuckle Busters has a card deck for pros cons for each player, and a deck of cards for injuries and casualties. Maybe that's what it is. Dead Man's Hand, Gunfighter's Ball, What a Cowboy. They all use the playing card mechanic. It seems like it's kind of the way to go, I guess. I mean, it's not. It doesn't seem super unique at this point. Being bug-based, more likely they taste like crab or lobster. I think I talked about that yesterday. Maybe we were talking, it was me and Sam, but I was like, or I was talking to somebody, and I was like, I bet they probably taste more like lobster and less like chicken. Found a circa 1999 metal model of the Emperor's Champion from a games day that year in my stash. Tempted to bring him up north next month and paint during a week of fishing. Nice. I used my Stargate SG-1 figures for Majestic 13. I didn't even know there were figures out there. That's pretty cool. Heard that the Combat Patrol rules use the whole box, but the data sheets are different so that they all balance against each other. There's apparently no list build. In most situations, yeah, they've said there's no list build, but I'm wondering with a couple of the boxes that seem wildly overpointed if they're going to maybe give you an option to take either this or that, or if they're just going to say you can't use this, you can only use that. But then again, you'd be buying a box with stuff in it you're not supposed to use. That seems dumb, but I don't know. We'll find out soon. Thinking of different Majestic 13 settings, how forced is the balance between missile weapons and melee weapons for the troops? It's mostly missile weapons. Yeah, there's not really much in the way of melee weapons. If you really wanted to, you could use Rain and Hell demons for the aliens and have Majestic 13 be the people who battle the demons that managed to get into our universe, tie the games together. Could. That'd be sort of interesting. Just realizing that Majestic 13 could be used to play at XCOM. I mean, XCOM and X-Files are basically two definite influences for sure. GW makes their money off the plastic, not the paper, whereas you make it off the paper, not the plastic. Well, because we don't sell plastic, but yeah, no, that's the thing. They sell plastic and paper. And they, I think, probably make pretty okay money on paper, but part of the reason, in my opinion, that Games Workshop is deciding to start being like, oh, well, we're going to make things available for free download is a couple of reasons. Number one is it's just becoming the way that companies are doing it. And they even have to start paying attention to the way that it's being done. Because here's the deal. If I have to buy a $50 to $60 codex and a $80, hardcover giant honkin' rule book that's hard to lift, just so I can decide what models I want to buy, I can tell you the answer. It will be, at the very least, fewer models is what I will buy. But if I could just download the PDF and then download the indexes or codexes or whatever, the data sheets, and then be like, oh yeah, that's how these guys work with those guys. And this guy can only be the leader of these guys. He can't be attached to, okay, cool. Like knowing that beforehand is what gets you to buy more models. That's what it did the early days of Age of Sigmar, like 1.0, when that app came out, and it was a spectacular app. I can guarantee you that I was looking at the app, looking at the stats, looking at what was going on with the War Scrolls, and then there was a button right there, buy, and then you could just buy the models direct. That's sold models. So I'm hoping they have that same type of kind of stuff going forward, because they said they're going to be making a much better 40K app. So we'll see. We'll hold our breath. But yeah, now again, they still want to sell books to people who like books, because some people like books, and that's fine. But the other reason I think that they're trying to maybe slow that down a little bit, if everybody has to buy a book, some people are just not going to because they don't want to spend the money, or they don't have the money, or whatever. Or it also gets them to buy less models. Number two, the books, I think, are all still printed in China. I don't know where this one's printed, to be fair. Let's try to find out, shall we? Produced by Core Rules. Well, so far I haven't been able to find where it's printed. Usually they put it on the back. God, that text is small. Good Lord. All right, maybe it's way at the back. Well, all right. I'm not going to waste your time but so far it's not just like out there in the front saying where it's printed, but a lot of their books have been getting still printed in China, which is then meaning they have to sit on a boat and come from a long ways away, and it's just extra shipping, and global production, shenanigans is still technically kind of going on. So I think that's also part of it too. They're figuring if we can limit the number of books a little bit, I mean, admittedly, it's, doesn't make them as much money, but if you then turn that money that you don't spend on books into miniatures, they're getting it either way. But yeah. Let me see here. Such bad capitalists, as Vince says. Yes, you're not wrong. Majestic 13 book is really good looking. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It was a lot of work, frankly. We didn't work with any kind of artist this time on this book. I knew that we were going forward. I knew as the art director what kind of look I wanted, and I knew it wanted to look like photos and photograph or badly photocopied pages and a lot of redacted stuff and all that kind of jazz. And I wanted to look like photos, not illustrations. So that's why we didn't work with an illustrator on this. So I did all of the photo manipulation, photo collage, all that jazz. I worked with a couple different stock photography places that we pay for. I pay for the Envato Elements is one of them that I use, but they're listed in the book. And then just was finding pictures of UFOs on stock photography, pictures of aliens on stock photography. There's all kinds of things like that. But then having to make the little border to make it look like it's a photograph, and then kind of putting it on the page kind of crooked, give it a little shadow to it, and bend on the corner, stamps, all that jazz. It was great because whenever I was doing the layout and I had a spot to fill, I could fill it custom. When you work with an illustrator, you give them sizes and ideas, but then you come to the end of a paragraph and you've got this much page left, and then you're like, well, can I fill this with one of the pieces of artwork that we've paid for, that they made for me, or is it the wrong shape, or what's going on? Because the art gets done while the writing is happening usually, and then you get the art and then start the layout, and then it's sometimes hard to lay out around the art because the text is the text, and it's a whole thing. In this situation, I was able to make custom pieces to fit in spots that I had to fill, but everything took 3 times as long because I was doing the majority of it, as opposed to just with Space Station Zero, I would grab the artwork that Will sent us, and then I would figure out where I could put it. In this situation, I would make the artwork to fill the holes that I had, and then it took a lot more time than me just grabbing a piece of art from a file and then dropping on the page and going, cool, that's where I want it. So I like the way that it turned out. I think the visuals looked really good, and I'm happy with it. But our next game is definitely going to be working with illustrators again, just because it just fits better for the story and the plan. So 5 robotic squirrels fighting robotic foxes, tortoises, and turkeys in the cyber forests and plains. I mean, knock yourself out. Just bought the book, hearing you talk about it, and your company ethos won me over. Well, I appreciate that there. Oerlemens. I'm mispronouncing that, and I apologize. Does anyone, if Vince released a newer bat rep, the video I had seen before just stops like, oh yeah, we fixed that. We fixed that on the day that it launched. Yeah, with the initial battle report stopped at the 8-minute mark or so, and there was some sort of weird issue. So he re-rendered it, re-uploaded it, but it's been fixed since not Friday, but the week before Friday. So yeah, that battle report's fixed. You just need to go to, if you go to the Snarling Badger.com site and then go to the Majestic 13 thingy up in the games tab, or if you just go to Majestic13game.com, which is in the description, I think, of this video, then yeah, you can go there. That's where you'll find the battle report and the other videos as well on that page. Never underestimate the ability of nerds to get their panties in a bunch over a simple misunderstanding. I mean, sure. You can easily find some Infinity models to make teams for Majestic 13. Yeah, they're like a little sci-fi-ish, but not bad. Not bad. Depends on how you paint them, I suppose. I'm meaning Hero Forge might partner on adding accessories for your game. Yeah, it's possible. That's possible. Yeah, we'd have to work with them. We wouldn't want to just go, because I don't think legally we could just go, because you can go to Hero Forge and design a dude and then just say, I would like the STL, please. And then you could print it yourself. It's like, last I looked, it was $10, but it might have gone up since then. I don't know. It's a great feature. It's a really nice thing. And especially if you've got your own printer or a friend with a printer, then you can just design what you want. You have them print it, and then boom, there you go. But we couldn't resell that, obviously. Yeah. And so we have to partner with them to see to figure out something, I think, if we were going to go down that road, which, I like the option to buy the 40K big rule book at some point. I'm pretty sure they're going to sell, it won't say Leviathan on the front. That one's special just for the box, but I'm sure they're going to sell basically this same big honkin' book, just with a different cover. Like, I would be surprised if they didn't have all exactly the same amount of stuff in it. It would be a pain in the butt on their part to have to make 2 different versions of the book. So they would probably just, I'm sure the inside of the actual real, 10th edition book will be identical to Leviathan. I don't know that for sure, but I'm suspecting very hard. It's just the cover will be different. So, I mean, that's kind of what they've done in the past. That's what they've been doing lately with a lot of the codexes. If they sell like that Black Templar box, and I think the Sisters box came with a codex in it that just has a different cover for reasons. I don't know, whatever. Hello, Uncle Adam. Been on and off coming into the hobby? Absolutely, Justicar. How you doing? There comes a point of rules granularity that it should just be a video game. Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, when you get super, I think I made a video about this. When you get to the point of simulation, or you're trying to do simulation on a tabletop game, it's probably just better for it to be a video game. Ironically, Majestic 13 Aliens is making me reconsider Leviathan when I previously had no interest in getting it. Well, that's... I feel like tabletop games don't need to be so deep with the rules. They're not the kind of thing you play so frequently that it needs to be depth. Yeah, I agree. The Dispersed are my jam because you guys describe them as ne'er-do-wells. Yeah, they are definitely ne'er-do-wells. High variety over 3 games so far. Sadly, Majestic 13 is just not for me. Still loving Reign of Hell to bits, though. Well, see, that's the thing. Part of the reasons why we wanted to make the games so that they are... Like, we've had people ask us, like, well, why didn't you just make one game and stick with that game and then just keep making expansions? We're like, well, what happens if a person doesn't like that game? Like, we had plenty of people who were like, I really want to get Reign in Hell, but I don't like the idea of demons, or I don't like hand-to-hand combat and no range attacks, or I don't like whatever. And then when we came out with Space Station Zero, those people were like, oh, this is what I wanted, and that's great. And now maybe this third game is not what they wanted, or maybe the first 2 games were just not interesting to them, but they love UFOs and stuff like that, or whatever, I mean, so when we keep making games slightly different, or more than slightly different, we keep making games different and make the engines different as well. It just makes sense. Now, again, there's something to be said for just having the same engine and then just skinning it differently, right? But again, we believe that rules also tell the story. You know what I mean? Like the way, like I said, like the way that, initiative works in this game in comparison to Reign in Hell, in comparison to Space Station Zero, kind of like tells a bit more of the story of how the battle is happening and stuff like that. And so, you know, it's just the way we like to do it. The Western game is Gunfighter's Ball. Knuckle Duster Miniatures is the company that makes the minis and the rules. That sounds about right. You need Tabasco and garlic butter to eat NIDS properly. Yeah, I would do that. Sure, why not? What do you think about playing just beginner manual from the starter set only once, or only since we don't have official store and no tournament around? Sure. I mean, like, yeah, with the new 40K, if you're interested in getting into that, I would definitely look into Combat Patrol. So Combat Patrol uses the normal 40K rules, which is it's that 60-page document that you can download for free from the website. So there's that. And then the stat cards for Combat Patrol are not out yet, but they will be out before the end of this month. Again, they'll be also free downloads. And then all you need is a Combat Patrol box, which is basically, it's like $160, and you just pick one of the different Combat Patrol boxes and you buy it and build it and paint it, and there you go. And you're playing. So yeah, it's Combat Patrol is designed in 10th edition to help people get into the game. That's what they're really doing. That's the starter, basically, really. I mean, honestly, now that I come to think of it, no, they probably still will have starter boxes. Like they did with the last edition. There was the recruit box, the elite box, and the command box. They'll probably still do something like that. But really, in my opinion, they should just be like, if you want to get into the game, get a Combat Patrol. Like, that's what they're really pushing, it seems like, in the book. So, Tyrannid Rangoon. That's not so bad. Whose love child of yours was this? Yours or Vince's? Majestic 13 was my idea. Yeah. Rain in Hell was my idea. Space Station Zero was Vince's idea. Majestic 13 was my idea. Like the initial spark, the initial idea and story and stuff like that. Vince writes basically all the rules. We work back and forth on it, but for the most part, he's the lead on the rules writing. Every week we get together and meet on Sunday nights, and he's like, well, I'm doing this and I'm thinking about this. And every once in a while I'm like, well, you know, a little bit of this or that. But for the most part, it's him. And then for me, it's generally the art direction and all the layout and the visuals and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of how that works. So glad Majestic 13 uses D20s. Need to get my crazy amount of RPG dice. Sure. For Custodes, you either the 4 guard or 3 bikers, for example. Yeah, potentially. Let's see how it works out. Genestealer box will be super strong just because they can bring back units. Well, I don't know if they'll be able to bring back units in Combat Patrol. Like, if they might be able to do it in 40K, let's say, but maybe in Combat Patrol, because here's the thing, the Combat Patrol data sheets are going to be simplified versions of the normal 40K data sheets. So, like, they already had an article where they showed, I think it was the Terminator Captain, they're like, here's his 40K data sheet, here's his Combat Patrol data sheet, and you could see how there was, like, fewer special abilities for the Combat Patrol version. There was, I think, maybe a different loadout. Like, you can't choose, oh, he's going to have a shield, or he's going to have this, or he's going to have that, like you can in 40K. It was like, he's going to be this way. That kind of stuff. So I think that's part of how they're balancing things. And then, like I said, also, it may then also help to make it so that you don't have a one of those boxes that's wildly overpowered, hopefully. We'll see how it goes. Let's see here. I can imagine if they made the pitch battle profiles like old coupon magazines at every GW store for free, it would increase sales. I don't think I'm familiar with that. Books are too expensive for legacy players like myself who have several armies to maintain. Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, if you're a multi-army player, then you have to buy multi-codices, and you know that's a thing you don't necessarily want to do. $50 codices. $50 codices kept me out of the latest edition. Yep, no, I get it. Will there be a mini rulebook for 10th? I don't know. I mean, I think because they're going to do that, because they've got that 60-page core rules document out there, I don't know if they're going to make a printed version of that or not. Maybe not. I mean, maybe they're just going to assume you're either going to have it on your phone or an iPad or laptop or something like that. but I haven't heard anything about that really. Simulation is hyper detailed. What's the opposite? Streamline, maybe. Let's see here. Have you picked up Diablo 4 as your hobby pause game of choice? I haven't. No, I haven't. I know some people, some friends of mine are playing it, but I haven't gotten a chance. Or I'm not sure if I'm going to. I don't know. Missed most of this week, so about to rewind and listen to it now. Have a great 2 weeks, everybody. And absolutely. Do you have a recommendation for a rattle can matte varnish that's actually matte? No. Closest is this stuff from Testers, which generally you get at like hobby stores, not at like Lowe's or, you know, Home Depot or anything like that. But Testers dull coat. And that's not nearly as matte as it used to be. It used to be a really nice matte, and it's not as matte as it used to be, which is unfortunate. Yeah, rattle can's hard to get matte out of for some reason. I don't know why. Well, folks, thank you very much for helping to hang out with me on this Sunday. You know, it's been 3 weeks since the last instead of 2 weeks or whatever because of the TMX, but I appreciate everyone coming to hang out and chat and talk about some Space Marines a little bit, talk about some UFOs, Majestic 13 and all that. So if you're interested, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I keep talking about Majestic 13, you can go to snarlingbadger.com and find out more, or Majestic 13 game. 13 is the number 1 and 3. It's Majestic13game.com as well. Links in the description. But yeah, I hope you folks have a good couple of weeks, and we'll see you soon. And I think that's pretty much about it. And then hopefully you get some hobby done and maybe get some games done. And I think by the time, by the time we come back again, in theory, maybe everything will be released. I think that everything will maybe be released. I hope. It's either, because that's the last weekend. It'll be the last weekend in June next time we get together again. So hopefully, yeah, everything will be released. All the new 40K stuff and whatever. We can chit chat about that or whatever we can talk about. We can always talk about whatever we want.